Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, joined as I often am by Giles Edwards, the in-demand Giles Edwards.
Oh, yes, that's me. Hello, everybody. Hello, Greg. I
Giles, I saw you, you snuck off and did another podcast. It was
so
a sort of podcast.
yes, I barely did. I was tipped off about it. Yes, our favorite disco detective had a little due for the celebration of 200,000 YouTube views of his film and wanted me there to discuss it for one reason or another. And then I got no follow-up. And then after they did it, I got a follow-up and we did a little back and forth blurb for about 10 minutes there talking about the movie and its reception. So that was fun.
Right. Okay. So that was can you pronounce the director's name? I
Yes, I can. Let me just Ekanayaka is the last name.
Economic.
Sujua Ekanayaka. That's it.
Kanayaka. Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes. And the movie is Cosmic Disco Detective Renee. Is that, but there's more to it, isn't it? Is it just
Well,
Cosmic?
it's like a slow romance part two. Yeah, there are like three titles, but
Yeah,
Cosmic
a
Disco
slow
Detective
romance part
Renee
two. Uh,
is how it goes generally. Those succinct 8 syllables there.
and so the that well, we'll link Giles's appearance in that. It's a and now I guess the news is it's a whole series now of Cosmic Detective Renee is
Yeah.
going
If
to
you
do.
follow the
And
filmmaker, you will find he's got big ambitions. And judging from what I see him post and put up on YouTube and discuss with other people, it looks like he is going to attempt to realize these ambitions over the course of his life. So, yes, he's got 53, well, no quotes, but he's got 53 film ideas. No, it's 53 Invisible Spaceships is coming up. Anyway, he has a bunch of film ideas. One of them is about 53 Invisible Spaceships, which has begun filming.
yeah, and each of them cost like
Hmm.
$500 to make. So he'll be able to do it. You had one other thing to plug.
Yes. A month or so ago, I was lucky enough to get an advanced reader's copy of a horror anthology by Joe Koch. I wrote a review of this book for KindleReviews.com with their tagline, Together, Let's Promote Horror, which has been a good outlet for me because I get a whole lot of horror outreach that I can observe is not necessarily weird. So I have done a few things for them. The book title is Invagines. It's by Joe Koch, and you can read my remarks at KindleReviews.com, or you can listen to them. There's a link to my narration of my review available on the site.
Okay, and that is Kendall review.
That's it. Yep.
One review or
Reviews.
reviews,
Reviews. So
plural.
Kendall Reviews.
Kindle reviews. All right. So let's get into, after that lengthy and meandering introduction, let's get into the Wix Weird Movies, which is what we're here for. The news, all the news and releases. Now, there we are.
Are we up? Hey, we're up. And it's three faces that will be familiar to.
Right. So, yes, we have still of three faces up. Giles, you can simply tell us who these three
All
are,
right.
and I'll ask you a bonus question after at the end.
All right.
From
These
left to
three,
right.
left to right, these three people Yorgos Lanthimos,
Correct.
bearded. Emma Stone, not
Correct.
bearded. Jesse Plemons, lightly bearded.
Yeah, yeah, yes. And so second question, there are two possible answers to this question that I would accept. Why are we looking at a photograph of these three?
Well, this team, ever since, gosh, were they all involved in Poor Things? Seem to have taken a shine to each other and have done one project and are now talking about another project. The latest news I heard from you, Greg, having sent me a link, is a remake of a semi-obscure South Korean sci-fi comedy.
That's right. It's a remake of Save the Green Planet, which I take it you haven't seen since you called it semi-obscure.
I haven't seen it, but then I guess I was only guessing there.
Okay.
Most Korean cinema I've seen has been, shall we say, very mainstream. We get a number of great actioners every year at Fantasia that I make a point to check out. So,
Well, this one's a pretty weird sci-fi movie. It's about an insane man who kidnaps a CEO because he thinks that there is an alien invasion, and he has a female sort of that's not really in on the delusion, I don't think, but is more enamored with the crazy guy, and it goes from there. Uh, a sort of unusual subject matter for Lanthimos because it's pretty genre oriented, not arty at all.
mm,
Um, the original wasn't.
yeah, yeah.
So, but maybe he will do with it something a bit stranger. It is, of course, one of our weirdest movies in the original 366 canon.
Number
So the
number
original was weird.
316.
But what Lanthimos would do with it is uh, could be even stranger.
Yeah. Here's how.
Or he could dial it back and do a very straightforward. We don't know. Also, these three, Jesse Plemons was not in Poor Things. However, he is in Lanthimos's latest Kinds of
Hmm.
Kindness, which will be in theaters this summer, pretty sure.
Why that's less than a month away.
That's
Summer,
less than a month
anyway.
away. Yeah, it's already debuted at Cannes.
Mhm.
Let's move on to some more news of an upcoming feature. This still, Giles, you may attempt to do your best to attempt to explain.
All right. This is very analog still. There's a scrap papery feel to it, a DIY sensation, very angular. There's a forest scene. Between two trees in the mid background of this forest scene is a painted image of, I'm gonna guess, a woman kind of looking wryly at the photographic lens of whatever is going on here. But in the foreground, we have, it looks like two, maybe, yeah, about two figures and a little bird, a little bluebird off to the right, being chased away by a jagged boy-shaped person with a stick. This boy person is standing in front of a like a paper done fire and lying on the ground, feet up in the air, arms and hands up in the air, is a longer haired entity of indeterminate gender, which, from my recollection of the description, is perhaps appropriate. And I'm really wondering if that's a wolf or a log behind the horizontal figure. But regardless, it has like a shadow box kind of feel, has has a feel that I've seen in, gosh, at least one movie. Uh, very stop the odder side of stop motion, I guess, which is saying something.
And that's the movie was
The movie was
thinking
is
of.
the Hansel and Gretel from our good friends Cristobal Leon and Joaquin Cocina.
Indeed. So this they did the Wolf House, which is what the art quite resembles. And I know you've seen the Wolf House,
Oh yeah.
the artwork. As you recall, in the Wolf House, it had a thing where the animation was done in a totally unique style where the house itself, the set was animated. It's hard to describe, but for example,
Live action painting, I guess.
yeah,
It would, form as a picture and morph and evolve with, you could see the paint lines coming on in, real time, as it were.
right. So there would be a painting on the wall of a person, and that painting would move across the wall and then maybe drip down onto the floor and then pop up out of the floorboards as a three-dimensional creature later.
Mm.
Very odd. This has that same kind of feeling with the person painted on a backdrop. It all looks very hand sketched, very, very gray and raggedy
Yeah.
and crude and cardboard cutout type of thing. Cardboard cutouts giving it a dimensionality to it. And it is from, of course, the Wolf House's Cristobal and Leon. And
Joaquin Cocina.
I'm sorry.
Joaquin Cocina is the other. Yeah. So yeah, and also yeah, Bo is Afraid.
Yeah, okay.
They had
I've got his name wrong.
oh
I had his name.
well, it
Um,
is being produced by Ari Aster,
it is, yes.
and I guess they became tight over the course of Bo is Afraid because I think this is at least the second film that Mr. Astor has thrown his production weight behind since then.
That's something, yeah, actually I wanted to mention uh Ari Aster, of course, is a, very important as a weird director, but what he's doing producing now is very interesting because he's only throwing his weight behind weird movies. So I look at his filmography as a producer, and other than his own movies, he's done Dream Scenario, the
Mm.
Nicolas Cage dream movie. He did Sasquatch Sunset, the movie about a nature documentary about Sasquatches, which I reviewed for the site. He has produced Rumors, the latest Guy Madden film, and he's now producing these Chilean stop motion animators, Cocina and Leon. Um, of course, we know that they have just completed a film called The Hyperboreans. So in 2018, they did The Wolf House. They disappeared for quite a while, came back this year with The Hyperboreans, already have a new project. So it's really nice to see them accelerating because they are very talented, very weird, and their take on Hansel and Gretel is sure to be strange. I'll read the quote from Leon that he quoted to Variety. It's our very personal adaptation of this classic fairy tale. The main difference that Hansel and Gretel are both boys in this version, at least at the beginning of the story. In this telling, the story itself gets lost. So that's pretty promising, I would say.
Oh yeah.
So it's, as I said, it's very nice to see them accelerating their output. And speaking of Cocina and Leon, I'm probably pronouncing the first guy's name incorrectly. I'm not, forgive me. Um, Here they are, Leon and Cocina, it says here. What are we looking at here, Giles?
We are looking at a papier-mâché girl, massive head, reclined on a very, very crummy looking bed mattress thing with dirty white laundry, a teddy bear in the background. You can sort of see a window and a very rustically painted shelf. And this figure of this blue-eyed, strawberry blonde-haired, marionette-looking young woman dominates the cover of this. Oh, I'm guessing it's a Blu-ray.
And it is indeed a Blu-ray of The Wolf House, La Casa Lobo, which of course was Leon and Cocina's first movie, their breakthrough feature. And it had been previously issued on DVD only. Now it's out on Blu-ray, and it's coming with a really cool special feature, which, although we don't have an actual listing, the special feature is, oh, we do have an
Yeah,
actual listing, forgive
yeah.
me. It's some of their short films. I'm not sure uh, how it says a selection of short films on the cover, and in the special features box on Amazon, it says the collected short films, but I don't believe they're all of them. There are uh, three of them dating back to 2009, I think is the earliest one.
Okay. Yeah. Was that the smaller room?
Yeah, it looks like,
Der kleine Raum.
well, I don't, one of them doesn't have a date behind
Yeah,
it.
Weather Veen is not.
But yes, at least three short films from them, which would be show you what they were doing before they got into the Wolf House, which everyone should see. Everyone who listens to this podcast hopefully has
Yeah.
seen the Wolf House by now, but probably not. So get out there and do that.
Yeah. Largely positive Amazon reviews, except for one fella who hated this movie so much. But well, to each their own. If you're listening to us now and have read anything we do, you probably will enjoy it.
So we have sort of a theme here, right? We have Leon and Cocina, we have Hansel and Gretel, and we have this one sort of dovetailing with the theme we're working on here. Giles, what do you see?
I see what's probably a really expensive small house, but for the purposes of this film, it's this beautiful little a cute triangle frame house with an extension off to the side. It's deep in the woods. There's some, darkly lit scrub in the foreground, lots of fog in the background, and the portal to this conical main house section is open. The door is there invitingly with a warm glow obscured by a tall shadow.
And that tall shadow is Alice Krieger, or supposed to be Alice Krieger at the very least. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's really her, as she plays the witch in this movie, which is titled
Gretel and Hansel.
Gretel and Hansel. So I think there's probably, I do not believe you saw this, Giles. Am I
You
in?
are correct. I did just reread your review, though.
Oh, okay. Well, what'd you think of my review?
I think the review, it sounded very even-handed. It sounded like you were overall pleased with the experience. Not as weird as might be hoped, but still quite good. And I remember you made an especial point to be thankful that such a film would show up so randomly in such an otherwise dead time of year and in general for cinema, being a February 2020 release, which was probably somewhere around the nadir of music production due to certain diseasey things that were gearing up.
Yeah, good point. Um, yes. So the movie is, as it says, a sort of revisionist take on Hansel and Gretel, focusing on Gretel, which really isn't that big a change. The plot is a bit odd because what happens is I think there just wasn't enough meat to the fairy tale, so they had to add on a lot of a prologue about Gretel. In this version, Gretel uh, is an orphan. Gretel and Hansel are orphans, and they flee their medieval town because of lack of prospects and plague and so forth, and go out into the woods on their own. And there's some they have a few odd adventures. They meet sort of a zombie-like character on the way, about which nothing is explained. And then later they trip on some psychedelic mushrooms before finally arriving at the witch's house, and then basically going through the standard Hansel and Gretel plot. The house, as you can see, is not made of candy, but the witch does feed them. What I recall about this movie is, besides the plot being a little muddled, the cinematography was excellent, and it was my first introduction to Sophia Lillis as Gretel, who must have been a young teenager at the time, but looked like she had a real star quality, and indeed has done pretty well for herself since then in film and on TV. You could tell she was going to be a success. Alice Krieger, of course, was excellent casting as the witch. And so it was an okay movie, and it's sort of, though, it just showed up in theaters for no reason. And maybe you're right, Giles. Maybe it was just because the pandemic and there was not a lot of product. And maybe that's why they got it out there. There was no real draw to it because it's not really a horror movie. And arty fairy tale adaptations aren't really, big blockbuster stuff with no stars in them. And Alice Krige, while a very respected actress, is not a big box office draw in the United States. So it was odd that it even made it to theaters. And now it's odd to me that it's made it to 4K, UHD, and Blu-ray with such a lavish presentation. They have two commentaries, one from director Osgood Perkins, and the other from a horror historian, Rebecca McKendry. They've redone it, remastered it.
4 featurettes.
Yeah, featurettes,
Oh,
which
it's from
none of which,
Shout. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I see it's being distributed by Shout Factory, which goes a little way to explain the thoroughness, since they generally are all in.
yeah. That's a good point. It's from Shout, but again, it's an odd movie.
Yeah.
It's an odd movie to put out on 4K UHD, and I they're trying to position it, I suppose, as a cult film or an upcoming cult film, about to be cult film. I don't know if it will be. It's worth a look. It's worth a look. Not a must see, but I think if you're a fan of weird movies, you will not consider it time poorly spent.
Oh yeah, and that one thing I didn't describe because I only figured it out looking at the screen capture for the review. There's a slide out front of this house, which just goes to show how friendly it is toward kids there.
Very friendly for kids, yes. So there are three sort of or four movies with various linkages, whether they be Hansel and Gretel, Ari Aster, or Leon and Cocina, and then we throw in this one, which I don't really have a link to the four previous movies. But Giles, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at a very thorough release. Describing the image on the box in question is a guy who has finally approached middle age and looks at. He has a thin, well-trimmed goatee going into a beard thing. Looks somewhat concerned, and his massive head is floating above this island that is surrounded by a sort of spooky bluish glow thing, and the island has a little facility of some sort on it, and probably looks like a lighthouse. And so this is obviously a compound of some sort that this middle-aged head is looming above.
The middle-aged head of
Leonardo DiCaprio.
one Leonardo DiCaprio with a bandage, and it
Oh
is, of
yes,
course, Shutter Island.
yes.
Giles, have you seen Shutter
I
Island?
did. I saw this in theaters,
Oh,
actually.
me too.
And it's got Mr. DiCaprio, of course, but also Ben Kingsley, Max von Sydow. It's got Mark Ruffalo. It's directed by Scorsese, so that puts a very high floor, I feel, on the quality of it. I regard this, at least from my memory, I don't follow DiCaprio avidly, but I recall this being the first time I ever saw him on screen, finally being the age that I think he's wanted to be since 20 years before this time. I when I'm of I'm of the age that he was kind of just, oh, it's that pretty boy from The Beach and Romeo and Juliet, and always
What's
trying to
eating
be.
Gilbert Grape? Where,
Well, yeah, I didn't see that.
well, he wasn't really a pretty boy in that.
No, he was a kid, but certainly, posters of The Beach and VHS covers of The Beach loom large in my memory. And, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet did everything that did. And I think I recall occasionally catching movies with DiCaprio, and it's like, okay, he really wants to be taken seriously and be older. And I think it was with Shutter Island that I finally believed he was an older guy.
Yeah, he still has a very boyish
Oh, yeah.
look to him. So yes, it's Shutter Island. This is a release uh, from Paramount, and it's an odd strategy, I guess. They're releasing it with a 4K UHD, a Blu-ray if you don't have a 4K UHD player, and a DVD in case you don't have a Blu-ray player, I guess. And
And
then there's also a digital copy, which no one ever redeems or knows how to use or knows really what the point is, but it's essentially free for them to give out, I guess. So why not? They've put out a lot of movies in this 3-disc format. I'm not really sure what the marketing idea here is. I guess the idea is DVDs are so cheap to burn now.
looking at the price for this triple disc edition, I can only presume so, because you
yeah.
can get four versions of the same movie for a snip, 10.99 through your favorite Amazon retailer.
Which is only $1 more than just getting the Blu-ray. So,
Yep.
I mean,
And
you
it's
might as well.
$4 less than buying the digital rights to it from Prime Video.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and you get that digital code. So
Oh,
whatever that is. I once tried to redeem a digital code once or twice and couldn't either figure out how to do it, or I think in one case I bought a movie that had been out for 2 years and tried to redeem the code.
oh yeah, yeah, because they
It
do
was
have
invalid already, and what
yeah.
the hell is the deal? Who is using these digital codes?
Yeah,
But
I don't know. I did it once and then was acquainted with the staggering size of the file in question. Since this was long ago enough that it was effectively had to be a download thing, and it was there's this massive file that I might occasionally make use of. So, oh well.
But as for the movie, I think we both like it, recommend it. It's a
Oh yeah.
psychological thriller from Martin Scorsese, which is something he doesn't do very often. Of course, he's Scorsese. He's made a billion movies. He's done movies in every genre. And so this is pretty much his only psychological thriller that I can think of.
Certainly overtly, I guess there are arguments to be made possibly for After Hours, but that would be more of a cheeky psychological thriller if one were to stretch the term that even that far.
Yeah, I think more black comedy for.
Oh, certainly it's I'd say first and foremost
Yeah.
comedy, but yeah. Um,
And I, kind of guessed the twist of Shutter Island, which is about DiCaprio as a hard-bitten kind of 1940s style detective going to a island where there's a mental institution to investigate a murder, I believe, and he has a lot of tortured backstory of his own about being a soldier who maybe committed some questionably morally questionable acts
and a husband who committed some morally questionable acts.
and so on. And as I said, I guessed the twist. I don't know, Giles, you say you never guessed the twist, so
I am a perfect viewer for
perfect.
pretty much any thriller because I effectively turn my brain off and just let the story happen at me. So if there is a twist, I'm almost guaranteed to be surprised. Not that there is one, but what it turns out to be, certainly.
Okay, so you were surprised by Shutter Island's twist.
Yeah, yeah, I think I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Since we've run through everything and we're running out of time, but there is an article here. I'm going to just read off a little from Vulture because I find it a bit interesting. Now that Cannes Film Festival has wrapped up, although they have not, I think there are still a few films left to show, and they have not obviously given out the awards yet. But I was curious, and Google led me right to an article about it on how the movies in competition ranked based on the lengths of the standing ovations, because they always report the standing ovations. And since there were several weird movies here, we wanted to see how they did. So if you don't mind, Giles, I'm going to just read through these. Uh, Unfortunately,
No.
they're not ranked but and I don't have time to rank them, but I'm just going to read through them as they appear in the article, which is
Mhm.
on vulture.com.
Yeah, I just found it.
The Apprentice, the Donald Trump movie that's going to make him very mad, had a 9.5 minute standing ovation, which is pretty good. The second act, which I know nothing about, had what they characterize as a robotic 3.5 minute uh, standing ovation. Oh, Canada, the Paul Schrader's latest movie, had a 3.5 minute standing ovation also, and someone categorized it as polite applause and a perfunctory standing ovation. So you're getting the 3.5 minutes. That's pretty low. Rumors, Kate Blanchett movie with the Guy Madden movie with Kate Blanchett in the lead role, got a 5 minute standing ovation, which is decent. It's between the low end of the 3.5 and the high end of The Apprentice at 9.5. A little better, Yorgos Lanthimos's Kinds of Kindness got 5.5 minutes of applause. Going up even better, The Surfer, the Nicolas Cage
Mm.
movie by Finnegan Lorcan is the director, got a 6 minute standing ovation, and I have read reviews implying that it is quite weird, which we would hope for from Finnegan
And
Lorcan.
Cage.
So there we go. Furiosa, the Mad Max movie, got a 7 minute standing ovation, which is starting to get into pretty good territory now. Megalopolis, the movie that we have been talking about for what it seems like forever, got what they are reporting as an 8 minute standing ovation for Francis Ford Coppola's epic, hallucinatory epic. However, reports varied from 7 minutes to 10 minutes. So they averaged it out to 8 minutes. Something called Bird got a 9 minute standing ovation. Don't know what it is. Horizon, an American saga, Kevin Costner's Western epic, got 9.5 minutes. I can't imagine it's not going to bore me to tears. Amelia Perez, Spanish language musical with some well-known people in it, got 10 minutes. The Substance, which is sort of a body horror, but not especially weird, got 11 minutes. Honora got almost 9 minutes. That's Sean Baker drama. Sean Baker's usually very good. And something called Parthenope, Paulo Sorrento's Parthenope, which I know nothing about, got 9.5 minutes. So, key takeaway, they did not report on how David Cronenberg's Shrouds did in this one. Key takeaway, Megalopolis did pretty well. Surfer did pretty well. And most of the rest of our weird movies did average. What do you think, Giles?
Well, I think it's an interesting lineup and a good gauge, although I have read that standing ovations are, yeah, getting kind of just happening one way
Oh,
or
they're
another.
expected. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to. I mean, they're expected. You have to do them. So at con, I don't know if Fantasia they don't do standing ovations for everything, do they?
Not that I've seen.
Nah,
No.
people just walk out when it's over. But I mean, every time you have to do a standing ovation because people are coming up onto the stage right after the
Oh
film.
yeah, yeah. When usually there's a first round, and then yeah, depending upon what the Q&A or whatever it might be, then yeah.
But so according to that, Megalopolis is the top pick in the weird category, and then if you're square, go see like Kevin Costner movie, uh, and that's it. Giles, is your turn your head? Is your do you have a die?
Oh yes. Well, I do have I have a stripe here. That's right.
Okay. Okay,
It
because
may turn a color at some point. I kind of forget about it because I don't see up here very much.
for a second I thought you had just gone, you had the strangest form of male pattern baldness.
Oh, yes. No, it's bleach waiting something.
All right. So that should wrap it up for this week. Short week. We kind of rambled on. Do you have any rambling closings, Giles?
No, no. Got my Canadian money for Fantasia, and I've applied for accreditation. So that's
Canadian money. We will have a guest coming up. I believe that's in 2 weeks. Yes. Nick Roth and Lindsay Hahn, directors of Hanky Panky, will be on with us 2 weeks from now. Next week, I think Giles and I will return to talk about a much larger slate of movies, so we will not be as sort of digressive and goofy and more tightly focused on giving you the news.
yes, yes. Hard hitting.
But takeaway from this episode is we're looking forward to some stop motion animated Hansel and Gretel and some more Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And that should do it for now. So I wave goodbye to all you kind people.
Me too. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe, listen through, like, etc.
Thank you for reminding. I always forget that. Like and subscribe, you jerks.